Thanks so much for joining me today as we talk about one of my most favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them. I love sharing them. So, I bought this exact book for $5. And I bought it for one reason only. This is the Mike Deodato Jr. Wonder Woman run. Now, I have to be honest with you, I haven't read it. You know why? I didn't buy it for the story. I bought this book for one reason only, and that's this dude. Mike Deodato Jr., who I believe is from Brazil. Follow him on Instagram. The dude posts a lot of stuff. He's a great shape. I think he does karate or taekwondo or something. And anyway, it's written by William Masner Loebs. Read it. If you find it, it's worth it because I love Deodato. So it includes these issues right here, 0, 85, 90 through 100, and a couple of stuff. I'm gonna try to be as quick as possible as I can, and we'll just because I really just want to show you the art. I mean, that's what we're here for. Goodness gracious, he's been at Marvel for such a long time that some people forget that he was at DC and had this run with Wonder Woman. So, the guy works digital now. So, he does so much cross hatching nowadays, his art. But his figure work actually looks very similar. It's just he's gotten into more rendering in his work. He's had runs in Amazing Spider-Man. He had, oh, with Warren Ellis, he did the Thunderbolts. He had a run in Incredible Hulk back when Peter David was still writing it. Oh, this is a nice one here. Look at all this. This is what he does. He just does so much hatching. He's a Jim Lee clone, but he went on his own right. I mean, he does very, like, you can see some Adam Kubert, some Andy Kubert, Joe Kubert, Jim Lee, Mark Silvestri. He's got a little bit of all of them. So he's currently working on a creator-owned project that is pretty cool. So I'm trying to think what else he has done. I don't think he's done Wolverine. Maybe an issue or two, but I don't think he's done a series, like a run. I remember Hulk. I remember Amazing Spider-Man. I'm sure I will remember here. So look at this. Just and by the way, Brian Boland, his cover work. Man, that Brian Boland. Brian Boland also works digitally too. So, oh, and Deodato also had a Thor run that I will get to. That will probably do this. That one was written by Warren Ellis. It's definitely not one of the better Thor runs because that was the Thor right before the Heroes Reborn, where I think he was just dressed in this terrible. But yeah, he has what else? Oh, I think he did Elektra. One of the Elektra volumes. So, he's had quite a few things. Original Sin. He was on the regular series. I think he was the artist on that. Goodness gracious, what else Trying to think. I think he did some Avengers in the when Brian Bendis was doing it. So I don't know. I don't remember which ones though. But that run was so packed. So anyway, he is one of, I think, better artists out there, and so I just wanted to kind of show everyone his entire Wonder Woman run, and hopefully, kind of just go through. I got this just because I absolutely just I think the pictures are pretty. I'm sure the story is fine. I'm not gonna knock the story, but I don't know. I haven't really read it. I only had 3 issues of this run, and I found it. I didn't even know I had them. So that just goes to show you that I think I got them. I don't know, but I had 3 when I was putting my books into categories. I was like, oh, all right. So the dude is he does good work. Like I said, he does so much rendering now. I mean, you can even see here just, and he does so much more. Man, look at that. Oh yeah, and he did that old man Logan run too. Did he? Yeah, he inked this too. So little tiny little feet, but he's a very solid artist. I truly enjoy his work. So I like the rendering. I like artists that are different. I also do like ink slingers, and although he's not what I would consider an ink slinger, just based on his style, ink slingers normally give you that very thick, heavy line with the brushing. He doesn't tend to do that, but because he's a hatcher. So, but like I said, very reminiscent of Andy and Adam Kubert. Joe Kubert, who was also a hatcher. Todd McFarlane is too, but this is definitely not a McFarlane style. And of course, Jim Lee, who everyone basically, I always keep saying, Jim Lee changed the way people draw comic books. And you can see his influence on everyone, even the Kuberts. If you look at some at when Adam and Andy became so popular, it was right after Jim Lee. So, like I said, this is just so that we can just look at that beautiful art of his. I mean, it's so inspirational. You look at it and you can just look at the figure work and you're like, whoa, I can try that. And then just renders the heck out of women. Women are not very easy to draw for me. It just, a lot of curves. Drawing dudes, superheroes is so much easier. So my props, I really, when I draw women, I have to take another grade. So Brian Bolin is, you see this on his work too. He's also a hatcher. Of course, you would know Brian Bolin from, oh my goodness gracious, one of the greatest Batman stories ever. Not Arkham Asylum. The Killing Joke. Goodness gracious, I'm old. I am just forgetting stuff. So, Just look at this. Tell me you don't see Jim Lee's influence. This is closer to how he draws now. Just render the heck out of everything. So, if you don't like, sometimes I just have to go fast, particularly when there's 10 issues, and I don't want, and again, I'm not reading a great cape right here. Particularly when I'm not really reading or telling you what the story is, because in this case, we are just looking, another great cape rendition. We're just looking at the art. I tend to go a little fast, particularly when there's so many, but I'm trying to go enough so that you can really let your eye catch the the art. Very cool. So I really recommend him. If you find this at a decent price, um, get it. This is he's worth adding to your collection. So anything you see that he draws, I hope you turn into a fan, because his art is very good looking. So it looks like this is all taking place in Themyscira, so or somewhere around there. And this Medusa. I'm also covering John Byrne's Wonder Woman run, so you'll see a couple videos there. I will hopefully do his entire Wonder Woman run. So this is Artemis, who's been being Wonder Woman in man's world. Just really nice stuff. We've been at 13 minutes, so if we've, you know, I try not to keep these videos way too long, so hopefully we can at least get five of them done. Oh, I forgot, this costume, the 90s. Everything was competing with Image. Image was what people were trying, these Marvel and DC, they were doing everything they could to try to copy, to try and emulate, because they were outselling everything. It's hard to imagine there was a time when Marvel and DC were falling behind, because particularly Marvel, who is the king right now, Marvel outsells everyone else by a lot of units. DC's number two by volume, but at that time, it was Todd McFarlane on Spawn, Jim Lee on Wildcats, Mark Silvestri on Cyberforce, Rob Liefeld on Youngblood. So these books were, DC and Marvel were just trying to replicate the style. They were trying to replicate the types of the way the characters look. So you see a lot of changes to the traditional look. They were experimenting, just trying to find a way to make make things different, make things that. Here's Hawkman. Nice. Man, Brian Boland. Look at that. Just the way he does his hatching and his. I recommend Brian Boland all the time, every day. Beautiful work. He has a wonderful line. And like I said, as I'm going through these, don't, you know, I have no idea either what the story is. And I have the book, and I'm just, again, my whole goal here is to look at Mike Deodato's art. That's it. I'm sure the story is fine, but that's not the purpose of this video. In this video, it's about the visuals, so this video is about the art. Like I said, he's great at rendering. Um, very nice panels, very good composition. I bet DC thought they had their own Jim Lee. Another Brazilian guy, I think, is Ivan Reis. Rise. I don't know how to say his last name, but he's been at DC for a while. Beautiful work. A much more cleaner line. He doesn't quite have the rendering, all the hatching that Mike Deodato has, but a very similar Jim Lee-ish style that's a little bit more clean. So as we progress to tell newer stories, but I'm just kind of been stuck in the 80s and 90s. Um, just because there's so many channels right now that just kind of show you. There's a lot of X-Men channels that show you the Jim Lee stuff and all the Mark Silvestri stuff. I've been trying to show people some of the older X-Men stuff, some of the I have classic X-Men, and I've been just trying to do those. I've been doing the McFarlane Spider-Man. So there's so much stuff. Comic books have just been around. I will never. Another great cover here. Look at that. See, this is what I mean. Look at that clean, straight line. Just wonderful. Um, these there's so many books that I want to cover. I want to cover more modern ones too, but I'm kind of been with certain things. I want to show them in order. So I want to cover, you know, to do some of the Greg Rucka, for example, who's a great writer on Wonder Woman. Kind of want to show some of the older stuff too. So I'm trying to do certain things in certain orders so that as we move on to newer stuff, just wow. Dale Keown and is another artist that Mike Deodato reminds me of, particularly these big, thick muscles. Again, much more rendering than most of those guys. Mike Deodato probably renders more than anyone else. Um, Jim Lee would probably be the second most with rendering. This is what I mean by rendering, all this hatching. He looks sort of like Pitt from Del Keown. There's good one with the cape here. I like this. Look at that. Very McFarlane-esque. There's channels that show you a lot of independent works, and there's just so many comic books. I strongly suggest so many. Ed Brubaker, for example, writes a lot of good stuff. I recommend his books. Anything written by Ed Brubaker. Look him up if you don't know who he is. Warren Ellis, and there's another writer. Greg Rucka is another great writer. But then there's artists like this guy, Mike Deodato. Everybody knows Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, Rob Liefeld, Mark Silvestri. Modern ones. I love Chris Samney. I love Ron Garney. Although Ron Garney has been around for a while. Ron Garney was around in the '90s. So was Chris Bacalo or Bacalo. I don't know how you would say it. So it looks like Poison Ivy is. Here's the Joker. So we're at 96. Hopefully, I can end this by the 30 minutes. So very cool. Oh, almost looks like Darkseid there. So there's so many artists, there's so many writers, but you know, just got to find out what you like. I prefer your Marvel DC superheroes, but I by no means does not mean I won't read other stuff. I love Frank Miller, and I follow all his work. I currently have the Ronin sequels in my pull list, but only 2 issues have come of that. So we'll see if that ever ends up being published. I apologize for the dog, but she was sleeping and heard something upstairs. So with Frank Miller, like I said, Sin City, Mike Mignola, his Hellboy. I love his early stuff, his new stuff, everything he does. That boxy style I absolutely love. I like Tim Sale, rest in peace. I love that that style too. I love those thick brushes that people do. Part of the reason that I truly enjoy Frank Miller. So DC, with Artemis being the sort of the new Wonder Woman, it's part of that whole let's try something, see if it kind of works. Yeah, you can't tell me this guy didn't see Pitt and said, huh, let me try it. That is Pitt with long hair. A lot of people were doing that huge. If you look at his short Hulk run, his run was, I think, the one that had the Thunderbolts introduced, and Hulk was just huge like him. So, great Joker. Sort of classic with that jaw. Great cover, as always. Just all these little tacks. It's pretty cool. Brian Boland. So, got 3 issues to go. The 90s was a different time for comic books for sure, It was a transition period. Image changed everything, and you can see it in both Marvel and DC. into how they were doing their stories, into how they were drawing their characters. So Greg Capullo is another artist that came from this era. He was doing X Force after he did Quasar, and then he did X Force after Rob Liefeld left, and then Todd got him to replace him on Spawn. And he had a huge long run in Spawn. I think he drew like 70 of the first 100 issues. I mean, that's way more than Todd drew. Todd was the inker for maybe half of those. And then Danny Miki did his best to give that McFarlane look. But Greg Capullo is another artist that came from this era. Let's see, Ron Garney. I'm trying to think of artists that are still around. So, 3 issues left. Looks like we're going to have a Artemis versus Wonder Woman fight. Great splash page that was. Double 2-page spread here. Nope, not a double. That was just a single. My bad. This is sort of that bad girl movement. I love the kick. She's like just flat. Wonder Woman is an absolutely great character when done right. And that's the thing, she has to be done right. And I think, for example, Greg Rucka did her right, John Byrne did her right. I believe David Finch had also a run, a short run. Oh, and Brian Azzarello, when the New 52, I absolutely love Brian Azzarello's run in Wonder Woman. That was fun. We'll have to get to that one, but it'll probably take a long time before I get to it, before we get to that era. All right, so 2 issues to go. Great cover here. And this is Cersei. I guess I should have said that. That's with the purple hair. So, hope you like Deodato. I think he's very good. So, if you ever see any of his work available, I strongly recommend to give it a try. You can see here he's definitely a very good artist. I think he, if you look at him now, he's like I said, his the way he composes images are still the same, but how he renders everything has changed quite a bit. Of course, it's been over 30 years, so he has 30 years down his belt and experience. So, and he draws digital now, so you don't see this. He was probably doing pen and ink at this time, but now he uses Photoshop, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's a tool. but a lot of how he composes is still very similar. This is still what he does now. Just he renders even more. So, issue 100. We're a little bit over 30 minutes, but hopefully it won't. We're almost done. Look at this. John Byrne takes over with 101, so this is the last issue of Deodato as artist of Wonder Woman. This trade, like I said, contains much more stuff, but I like to keep these videos from being overly long, so I think we'll be done after issue 100. Just, yeah, the composition, he draws such a skinny ankles, and but I don't mind. Like I said, I like him. I should read this one day. I just, like I said, I look at these pictures, and normally I'm just happy with it. Comic books are both visual media, like, and so they're sometimes, you look at the pretty pictures, sometimes you read it. So these are the ones where I just look at the pretty picture. William Mastner Loeb, who wrote this, was also the writer on The Max with Sam Keith. I don't think Artemis is dead, so. And if she died here, then she's been brought back. And she fights like Super Pit. I'm going to call him that because that's what he looks like. You can see he was auditioning for the Hulk, which I think he did after this. I think he was during the Heroes Reborn part, so I think he went from this to Hulk. So, yep, Artemis dies, but she doesn't stay dead for long because, hey, it's comics. So, it ends with her death, and so these are a couple of variant covers. And then this is one for the first trade. And then for the second trade. So, I hope you liked it. Wonder Woman 90 through 100 by Mike Deodato Jr. Like and subscribe. Thanks for listening.